Hello friends, if you're anything like me, I am sure that you use books as a form of self-care and also to escape from the capitalist hellscape that is our lives right now. So I'm going to give you 7 book recommendations today based on the 7 different types of rest that we need in order to look after ourselves best and function properly as human beings. I am not sure where this concept originally came from, but I will leave links in the description if you want to read more about each type of rest. And the request for this video actually came from one of you guys. It came from Alia, so thank you Alia if you are watching this video, and if you watching have any requests about book recommendations or books that you want me to read, please leave them in the comments below. I always love chatting to you guys. So the first type of rest that we need is physical rest, and as you can probably tell from the title, it means literally resting your body. So this might mean sleep or doing something that relaxes your nervous system like yoga and relaxes your body, so maybe also like taking a bath. And so you might be thinking, Priyanka, why would you want to read if all you need to do is just nap? But I feel like when I was extremely tired during 2020 and was so burnt out to the point where I did not know how to physically rest, I picked up this book, which is Self-Care for Tough Times by Susie Redding. And if you are an infographic girly like me, or you just love some illustrations, this book is for you because it has these amazing illustrations and these kinds of really cool pie charts to show how burnout can physically affect our bodies. But also there's pages about different yoga poses that you can do to really calm you down and help you physically rest. And even though it is kind of like a white people's version of yoga, I still found this book so helpful for actually teaching me how to physically rest, and a lot of the stuff from this book has stayed with me to today. So the next kind of rest that we need to look after ourselves is mental rest. So that kind of relates to shutting off like a racing mind or trying to stop negative or intrusive thoughts and maybe changing our self-talk. And I feel like when you need mental rest, more than anything, you need something that will really pull you in and not let your attention go, because otherwise your brain can just start thinking about all the other stuff that's on your mind already. And so for mental rest, I recommend My Friend Fear by Mira Patel. And this book, as you might have guessed, focuses on fear and how we can embrace our fears and embrace the unknown to move forward in life. And I feel like when you have loads of racing thoughts, usually, or at least in my experience, it is based on something that is out of your control or is the unknown. And genuinely, this is one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. It has these kind of big, like typographical quote pages mixed in with writing from Mira sharing her own experiences of how she overcame her fears through part of her life, but also has prompts to invite you to think about how fear plays a part in your life and how you can change your self-talk. And I want to read you a little bit from the book that really helped me reframe how I think about having a racing mind and overthinking. Everything feels so connected. My brain is an athlete, lightning fast and powerful, capable of anything. I can do anything. And that is something that always helps me feel better when I'm overthinking, to actually feel like, okay, you know what? This is just my brain going in overdrive because actually I have a very capable and active mind. It's just hard to switch off sometimes. The next kind of rest that we need is spiritual rest, and obviously this looks very different for different people. I personally am not someone who practices religion religiously, literally for lack of a better word. So spirituality for me is kind of more looking at like my connection to the universe, and so spiritual rest for me will look like considering my place in the universe, how I fit into everything. When I don't spiritually rest, I often feel really detached from life. And so my recommendation for spiritual rest is the Penguin Book of Spiritual Verse. Now, fun fact about this is that I actually worked on this book in my previous job at Penguin as part of the publicity campaign, so of course I'm not biased or anything, but genuinely this book is incredible. And Kaveh Akbar, who is an amazing poet, is the editor, and he writes the most amazing foreword about his journey with spirituality and how he kind of rediscovered his faith after a bout of addiction and alcoholism. And this book is 110 poets writing about spirituality and the divine. It starts right from the first ever attributable writing by a high priestess, like an ancient high priestess, and then takes us all the way up to modern day and writings on spirituality that reflect more of the attitudes of the present day. And it genuinely will like alter your brain chemistry and make you think about the world differently. It is gorgeous and breathtaking. The next kind of rest that we need is emotional rest, and this is more to do with feeling inauthentic and feeling detached from our emotions and our truest selves. And so my recommendation is The How by Ursa Daly Ward. And this is kind of like a mixture of poetry and memoir and self-help, self-care book. It doesn't really fall into any specific genre, but Ursa writes in this really spiritual, airy way that will invite you to question where your ideas of who you should be and who you want to be come from. And that's why it's called The How, because Ursa argues that that is something that we are constantly chasing, is the idea of how we become ourselves. So if I read a little bit from the book, I think it explains it a little bit better. It gets exhausting, forever chasing the how. We find ourselves repeatedly fired up by some new idea, practice, or solution, only to lose the will and fast plummet. I have definitely done this. We have plenty of distractions working sharply away at our undersides, forever gnawing at the edges of things. A constant slew of muddy information, lurking and precious and common and awful and terrible and gorgeous and urgeous and frightening and pressing and depressing and shallow and too deep for comfort and chiding and aching and telling you what you are and telling you what you aren't and putting you in your place, and desperate and unnecessary and good and nonsense, and all of it much too much. And honestly, if that didn't touch your emotional core, I don't know what will. Maybe that's a sign you need to get some therapy, my friend. So the next kind of rest that we need is sensory. My friend said not today. Not today. So the next kind of rest that we need is sensory rest, because oh my god, we're literally surrounded by so many sensations. And if, like me, you live in a city, particularly London, that you literally hear like the police sirens all the time, I don't think I need to explain that one too much. And I'm going to recommend a book that I recommended in my last video, which is There Is Still Love Here by Dean Atter, because not only are the poems incredibly comforting and warm in the voice, but also the poems are quite short, and I feel like when you're overloaded with senses, the last thing you need is something like the books I recommended earlier with a lot of illustrations and a lot of color, which can be quite overwhelming. This is literally just black and white words on a page. There isn't much ambiguity to it, so you can kind of absorb it fairly quickly as well. The next kind of rest we need is social rest. And contrary to what you might think from the title, that actually means strengthening the relationships in your life. It doesn't actually mean detaching yourself from social events or hanging out with people. It means focusing on those key relationships that bring you joy, whether it's the relationship with a partner or your friends or your family or even yourself, or hey, a cat or a dog. I love animals, I know that vibe. And my recommendation for this is Everything Is Going to Be Alright, Poems for When You Really Need Them, which is an anthology edited by Cecilia Knapp. And if you don't know who Cecilia Knapp is, let me put you on. She is an amazing writer, but this collection doesn't actually include a lot of her work. Only one of the poems I think is by her. But she does write this incredible foreword, which really articulates, probably in the best way that I've ever read, exactly why poetry in general, but also these poems, can really help feed your soul and feed that part of you that might be craving social interaction or connection with other humans. And she says, "It was like a hand reaching out and shifting something within me, so much so that I felt it physically. This is what good poems do in their own utterly unique way. Good poems are sharp, bright, and brilliant things that cut right through you. There is something so potent about a poem, these condensed, distilled moments that can take our breath away. They are a hand reaching out. They transport you somewhere else entirely. Sometimes you see yourself within a poem, you jump inside and you move around in there, finding what you need to discover. Often, they are the greatest breeders of empathy." Mic drop. I feel like I literally don't need to say anything else, but if I had to follow that up, I think it really perfectly describes how poetry can help you feel more connected to people and make you see things that other people are going through their eyes, through their experiences. And the final type of rest that we need is creative rest, which is about, yeah, tapping into your creativity, but also absorbing things that make you feel creatively inspired, that give you that sense of awe and wonder about the world. And so you need things that are kind of visually appealing, appeals to all your senses. And my recommendation for this is the Positivity Kit, which is actually a workbook, and it's actually like up on my shelf over there, but the camera's in focus. I've got this microphone, I am not gonna go and grab it, so I'll put a clip from my last video here of me showing what it looks like. And it is so sweet. It is a workbook that runs you through different activities and tasks that you can do to help you reframe things in your life and make you focus more on the things that bring you joy and positivity. So that might be something as simple as a favorite smell, a favorite food. But what I really like about it is that it's all in black and white, and sometimes I just use it as a coloring book as well, just to sit and color in the pages rather than write anything. And that for me is so creatively fulfilling, because it's not something that I have to focus a lot on or like focus my brain on. And it's still really nice to like be able to like pick out the colors, or if I'm writing in it, to be able to think about those things that bring me joy on a sensory level. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment below if you are excited to read any of these books. Let me know how you are taking care of yourself this year, because we need to hold each other accountable, because it's so easy for self-care to fall off the radar when you're doing other things with your life. If you're a writer or someone who's creative in any way, I think you might also like this video here, where I talk about how to look after yourself as a creative person, because I feel like for so many reasons that you'll see in that video, I feel like self-care when you're a creative can be very different. And thank you so much again to Alia for recommending this video topic. If you have something that you would like me to talk about, please leave it in the comments below. And as always, I hope you are looking after yourself and having a lovely day, and I will see you over there in the next video. Bye.